What's going on? It is James here, and I wanted to sit down this Saturday morning and shoot a quick market update video and also hopefully introduce some reality into the situation of these markets. Back in 2019, I was ultra bearish, and that's when I got the label of being a bear, even though I was not a bear. And what I told people in the videos back then, I continually talked for months and months and months about the fact that I felt Bitcoin would be under $4,000. I think, in fact, the number was 4,200 is what I was saying. And the reason I felt like that was because, it went up so fast, it's parabolic, it hadn't retested the breakout, all these types of things. But I got labeled a bear on Bitcoin, and people often overlook the fact that what I was actually saying back then was that I felt Bitcoin would go down to 4,200 and then start a bull run that would take it somewhere between 55,000 and 70,000. And that's literally, it doesn't get much better than that as far as, price predictions go. But I was a bull. And I told people, if you're bullish, don't get mad at me. Be happy, because if I'm right, you're going to get a chance to buy a lot more Bitcoin. And then when it does go up, if it goes up to 55, 60, 65 grand, right, you're going to be super, super happy that you loaded up. I want to be very clear that now in 2022, I am a bear. I'm not going, hey, Bitcoin's going to go down and I'm going to buy a bunch of it and then it's going to go to a gajillion dollars someday. I don't believe that's what's going to happen in the future. And I want to lay some of that out in this video. And I also want to say that I don't believe that Bitcoin is dead or that it's going to die anytime soon. There's some things that I think are happening right now that not many people are talking about. And I think it's really critical that you understand this if you're going to be risking money in this market. So do me a favor right now before you forget, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber to the channel. Also make sure to hit the thumbs up button. All right, let's dive into the charts first, and then I'll kind of explain the theory behind what's going on. So first things first, right now if you look at a Bitstamp chart, which is the chart with the most history on TradingView for Bitcoin. This goes back to 2011, and we can see that we have this overall point of control down around 1,400 bucks. This ledge comes up to about 2,800 or $2,900, which kind of lines up with the bottom of the 2018 bear market. If you look at this today, it looks ridiculous. It's like there's just no way it's ever going to go back down to that level. It's stupid. Why even talk about it? Bitcoin's never going to be under $10,000 again. That's what Bitcoin bulls are saying. They may be right. I don't have a crystal ball. If we zoom in a bit and we take a look at just the price action from the bottom of 2018, when people we'll say accumulating Bitcoin, probably started a little before then, but we can say there, that's fine. We get a point of control around 10,000. The ledge is way down here around 10K or 12K, right in that ballpark. If we use, if people were accumulating the whole drop, then again, our point of control drops a little bit, but we still have a pretty big ledge around the same area, 10 to 12K. All right, so I think we can all collectively agree, we'll call it 12K support. Okay, let's just call it support and be done with it. We're giving Bitcoin the benefit of the doubt, up around this ballpark, okay, 11, 12K. When you look at Bitcoin and you look at this chart, it's like, that's stupid. If you're talking about that number, you just hate Bitcoin or whatever the case may be. You're talking about a drop from the all-time high of about 83%. But let's just, look at this objectively and not about how you want it to play out or how I want it to play out. Because I think most people watching this, myself included, I would prefer Bitcoin just go straight up. I'm still holding cryptocurrency. Not a lot as far as relative to my overall net worth, but a pretty decent amount of crypto. And so if Bitcoin did explode and go bonkers, I would make a lot of money off of it. And I like free money. So I'm not like biased where, I just want to buy cheap Bitcoin. No, that's not what's going on. All right. So an 83% drop is what it would take to get back down to these levels. Now, how far did Bitcoin drop in previous bear markets? Well, I'm putting on log charts. It's a little easier to see. In the 2018 bear market, Bitcoin fell 84%. We're only talking about an 83% drop. Okay, 84%. In the 2013 bear market, it dropped 86.9% from around 1,200 bucks down to around 150 bucks. In the bear market before that, it actually got up to about $32, which I'm not seeing it on this chart. Maybe it doesn't go back that far. I don't think it does. It happened before this. It happened on the BLX chart, so let's look at that real fast. We can't use BLX for the volume stuff, which is why I wasn't starting there. But so this is the first bubble in Bitcoin. Went from under a penny all the way up to about 30 bucks or so, and then it fell 93.7%. So historically, every single time Bitcoin goes into a bear market, we can say that historically it drops between 80 to 95%. That's what a bear market in Bitcoin looks like. But here's the problem with Bitcoin. Well, let me just stop there. We'll talk about volume a bit more, and then we'll talk about a big problem. All right, so if we take a look at this and we cut this off, put it in replay mode, let's go back to the tippy top way back in 2017. Okay, now our point of control, well, let's start in 2013 and then we'll do 2017. Our point of control back there looked like this. It was down around 123 bucks. And the top of this ledge was about $146, okay? Looked like this. Now, if you asked a Bitcoin bull in November of 2013, December of 2013, if Bitcoin was ever going to be under, say, $200 again, I'm sure they would have told you that you were nuts, right? There's no way that would have happened. But, in fact, what happened, I'll speed this up as much as I can. Okay, did you see it? That's what actually happened. From way up here where it sounded ridiculous, that's never going to happen, down, 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 and ping, right into that line or that volume support, okay? Suddenly it's like, oh yeah, obviously, obvious, it's going back there. Hindsight's a crazy beast. All right, so that's what that market looked like. If we look at the 2017 market, okay, this is what our volume profile looked like. And so this is why you had a lot of people who were thinking that Bitcoin was going to go back down to around $1,000. In this case, about $800. Did it ever go there? No. Now I'm showing you this because I don't want you to think this is guaranteed. Like, oh, well, there's a ledge there. It's got to go there. More often than not, you retest those ledges of support, right? That's where heavy trading was taking place. But it's not guaranteed. Obviously, in 2017, this never went back down to that level. It stopped around 3,000 way up here. Okay, so I want to be very open about that and not present this really biased view of things. It's possible that we don't go back down to those levels. But I think when you see that, it suddenly becomes much more realistic that, hey, maybe we really are going to test that 10 to 12K level, And I think the other thing that people are not talking about, which is extremely critical, Bitcoin was basically born in 2008, and it really started to gain popularity after 2010, 2011, right? That's when, I'm not talking about mainstream, I'm talking about amongst the diehards, right? If you look at it really back here in 2010, we started to see trade volume that was worth a couple of cents, and it had its first bubble in June of 2011 is when it popped. Okay, so what else was happening at that time in the world? Well, if you take a look at tech stocks, let's go back to the same time frame. We're talking about 2011, right? Summer of 2011, 2010, in that ballpark. Here is the bottom, the double bottom in the 2008, 2009 area, and look what happened. From then, the NASDAQ, the tech stock sector, just up, 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 up. Completely parabolic here at the end, and a very, very hard and fast move up, right? A historical bull market in the tech sector. That's the conditions that Bitcoin has thrived in, right? Bitcoin has been allowed to thrive because it was living in this condition of, historically low interest rates and parabolic markets and cheap credit where people could, speculate easily because they're speculating with cheap money. We are now on the verge of what many people believe is going to be one of the worst recessions in the last 100 years. We're on the verge of what many people believe is going to be one of the worst stock market crashes in the last 100 years. At the very least, even more moderate people believe there's going to be a serious correction in the stock market, maybe 30 to 50%. So Bitcoin has never existed during that type of atmosphere. The only time that we've had even a little hint of what Bitcoin might do in those types of situations, it's failed miserably. Okay, I want you to take a look back in 2017. It was grinding sideways that year. Okay, that's 2014. It was grinding sideways, and a lot of people thought the bottom was in, even though this was, trying to represent this wonky descending triangle or whatever. A lot of people thought like 6K was the bottom and that we were actually consolidating and we are probably going to move up from here. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bitcoin drops 50%, almost like literally just out of nowhere, just boom. What happened? Why did Bitcoin fall all of a sudden? Well, that was November of 2018. What happened in November of 2018? Oh, this did. See it? From October through December of that year, the NASDAQ and the stock market as a whole had a pretty rough time. NASDAQ dropped 23%, Bitcoin dropped over 50%, or right at 50%, I believe. Let's take a look. From October, 54% in the same time frame. Okay, well, that's a little sketchy, right? It certainly flies in the face of this idea that bulls present that Bitcoin is a store of value, right, or a hedge against stock market crashes. Here we have another dip in the stock market. This time it's in February of 2020. And this time from February of 2020 until March of 2020, the NASDAQ pulls back 30%. Let's see how our good friend Bitcoin performed during that period. Did it act as a hedge? We all know the answer. Of course not. What did Bitcoin do? Bitcoin collapsed from 10.5 to 3,800, a drop of 62%, double the drop of the stock market. Okay, let's fast forward some more. Here we have this pullback in stocks. Now this pullback from November of last year, fell about 22%. What did Bitcoin do in the exact same time frame? From November of last year, it fell 52%. Every single time the stock market has a pullback, a correction, a crash, whatever you want to call it, Bitcoin tends to overreact. If the stock markets go down $1, Bitcoin tends to go down $2 or $3, right? If the stock markets crash 20%, Bitcoin crashes 50%. And so you have to ask yourself, if we're actually entering into a new global bear market, a market that Bitcoin has never existed in, which, by the way, I personally believe is the case, right? We've got our dead cat bounce here. This looks like complacency. Looks like we're going to move down from there. If that happens, and say stocks pull back 50, 60, 70, 80%, and you might be thinking stocks don't do that. That's a crypto thing. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. How far did the NASDAQ fall in the dot-com bubble? It fell, ding, 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 83.49%. Okay, stocks do fall 80%. But let's say, hypothetically, that they don't. Let's say that this time they only fall 50% if that comes to pass. Well, we've already said that when it's fallen 10, 20, 30%, Bitcoin's falling 50 and 60%. So if Bitcoin normally in a bear market drops 80 to 90%, how far do you think Bitcoin will drop if the stock market is collapsing? Personally, I think the answer is probably 95%. I think we will see Bitcoin, if stocks collapse, I think we will see Bitcoin fall about 95%. I think we will go back down and retest these lows. And I think it's entirely possible that what we actually end up doing is going back down and retesting the point of control of all time on Bitstamp, which would be down around $2,800, right? Or the point of control would actually be down around $1,400, but I'm talking about this ledge here, this support ledge. I think it's entirely possible we retest it. So at the beginning of the video, I said the difference this time and last time was last time I was bearish, I was looking for the drop, but I was really a bull, just looking for a correction and then a big move up to 55, 60, 70K. this time, that's not what it is. I'm not looking for a drop to say 3,000 if this all comes to pass, and then, oh, we're going to $1 million from there. I think what's happening has already started to happen, and I talked about it briefly in my previous videos. I think Bitcoin is the old technology, right? The innovative technology, the AOL of crypto, the Netscape of crypto. I think there are better mousetraps being built, and I think Bitcoin is going to be replaced, and I think Bitcoin is going to, be kind of an old technology, if you will. I don't know what coin or technology will replace it. It might be Ethereum. It might be something else. I think likely what will happen with Bitcoin is it will drop down to those low levels if the stock market crashes. Again, all this hinges on the stock market crashing. If we fall down to those levels, I think Bitcoin will have another bull run in it. I think that next bull run will probably take Bitcoin back up to 40 to maybe even 45K, somewhere in that ballpark. So I still think, hey, if you get a chance to buy Bitcoin at 3,000, I still think it's a really great opportunity, because chances are, in my opinion, talking years in the future here, chances are I think it does go back up to 40K after that. It still ends up being 1,000% plus return. So I'm not hating Bitcoin. I just think that what we'll see is once it moves down to this level, if it does, it'll have a bull market, maybe takes it back up to this level, and then we see Bitcoin kind of, settle down, maybe find like a store of value narrative where it actually does become a store of value, or maybe just completely, fizzles out over time. Without making the video too long, I just want to really, say that all of this is backed up mathematically as well. The predictions that I made in 2019 about falling to 4,000 or 4,200 were based on TA. They were based on retesting the zone back here, which is exactly what happened. That was the drop. But the high, the prediction of, I think Bitcoin is going to 55 to 70K. And forgive me, I don't remember the exact numbers. I remember it being 55 in the low end, and I think 70 or 75K on the high end. Somewhere in that ballpark, right, was what I was saying. It's on social media. You can go find it if you care. It doesn't matter. But what I was using to predict that was just a very basic mathematical model. Somebody figured out that each time Bitcoin has a bull cycle, the returns of that cycle tend to be about 20%, give or take, of the previous cycle. Okay, so for example, the gain from this low to this high was 51,000% roughly, and somebody figured out that, hey, historically that next gain is going to be about 20% of that. So the next gain would be about 10%. Sorry, not 10%, 10,000%. Right, and if you look here from the low in 2015 to the high in 2017, it was about 12,800%. So right in that ballpark. And then the theory was, well, that continues, right? And by the way, this was about 20% of the previous cycle before that, when it went from like a penny to $30. So the theory was, well, if it continues that, and this is our bottom back here, it should go up in this cycle about 2,000 to 3,000%. That was the theory. And so that's where the numbers of 55, 60, 65, whatever came from, was just doing that really basic math. And you can see that, in fact, it went up 2,109%, which is what the mathematical model was predicting. I didn't invent the model. I literally saw it somewhere, and it made a lot of sense to me. And then I started looking at the TA side of things and was like, that makes sense from a TA point of view too, because if you start doing things like drawing Fibonacci levels from the top in 2017 to the bottom in 2018, the 1.618, the extension was at 61,000, right in that ballpark. And that's where it stopped at, by the way. See that? You zoom in, you can see it. Boom, boom. Stopped right at that level. So it made a lot of sense to me, and that's where the high numbers came from, was a combination of the Fibonacci levels and a combination of this idea that the next return would be about 20% of this return. Well, think about what's going to happen here. If that model was to continue, and if this is the top and it falls, well, if the next return is 20% of this return, well, this return was 2,100%. So 20% of that would be about 400%, okay? So if Bitcoin falls down to, say 10,000, say there's not a bear market in stocks and it just falls down to say 12,000, right? Falls down to 12,000 and goes up 400%. Where's 400% at? right about there, right? Right about $60,000. So it's not, it means it wouldn't make a new high. To make a new high now, it has to basically throw off this mathematical model, which it can absolutely do. All right, nothing is impossible. If it falls all the way down to 3,000, then it gets even sketchier, and my 40,000 talk might be a little bit ridiculous. In the future, I might look back and be like, oh, why did I think it was ever going to go back up to that? Because if it falls down to 3,000, then 400% is suddenly only about right there, which is about 15,000, right? In which case you'd end up getting something where this falls down, tries to come back up to this level here, and then basically probably dies from there. Now, again, this video is very bearish, and I want to be very, very clear and say I don't have a crystal ball. I'm saying these are scenarios that I feel like people need to be aware of, because people mistakenly think Bitcoin has to go back up. I don't care about, how low it goes because it quote unquote has to go back up. No, it does not have to go back up. That is not the case at all. It has survived in this bull market. And one of the mistakes that new traders make in a bull market, I remember making the dumbest comment to my wife when I started trading in 2017. I said, I love this trading thing. It's like bowling with bumper guards. Because when I'm right, I make money. And when I'm wrong, I just wait a little bit and eventually I'm right. And what I meant by that was if I got in early, eventually it went up and I made money, right? And that's what people think about bull markets. Well, it has to go back up. It has to go back up. I'll just blindly throw money at it. It has to go back up. It does not have to go back up. It can fall and fall and fall and fall. And it could eventually even go to zero. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. Anything is possible. So you have to be really, really aware of that. I'm not an Elliott wave trader, but when I look at this thing, and Elliott wave traders out there, feel free to correct me if I'm not, doing this right. If there's something that I don't understand, I'm perfectly happy to listen to that, because again, I'm not an Elliott wave trader. But I do see this and think, man, that does kind of look like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there's all kinds of rules to Elliott waves, and so I may be breaking the rules. And again, that's why I encourage any Elliott wave people to tell me if I can't do this. But essentially the way Elliott wave works, or the basics of it, is you get these 5 legs up, and then a lot of times you get an A, B, C down. And the C is supposed to, I guess in theory, go to the 61.8. Well, the 61.8 of that chart is at $115. So, again, not an Elliott wave guy. I don't really think Bitcoin's going to $115. But I guess anything is possible. I think Bitcoin is just one of those things that kind of defies logic sometimes. And so there is that, possibility. What I would say to you is, if you are an investor, because I'm an investor in Bitcoin, I'm an investor in certain cryptocurrencies, and I do fully expect, unfortunately, I fully expect that I'm probably going to lose 80 to 90% of the money that I have in there, and that long term, maybe it does something, maybe it doesn't. So some people would say, well, why do you have anything invested at all? And the answer is really simple. Because everything that I have is profit. Now, it's still my money. I don't want to lose it. It's not going to make me happy if I lose it. And I'm already down in a big, big way just from holding it from last year when I sold a lot of my other crypto. But it's arrogant to think you know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. These are just the things that I'm concerned about, and these are things that concern me enough that I took most of my money off the table, and I'll leave a little bit in there just in case I'm wrong, just like I did all along. I've always left something in there. What I would say for trading purposes is this is really a range at the top. That's what this is, right? You can call it whatever you want. You can call it some kind of triangle if you see a triangle there. You can call it some kind of flag. Some people say it's a bull flag. You can call it distribution. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's range. That's what it is. And we really don't know what that range is going to do until that range breaks out. If it breaks out north, then all this bearish talk is probably nonsense. And it could be a fake out and end up being a bull trap. But I'm talking about if it breaks out and then starts to go up, right? Then all the theories, the 80% theories and all that, they completely change, because now you've got a new all-time high. If it breaks to the south, then, obviously those help to confirm these ideas that Bitcoin is going much lower. But as long as Bitcoin is ranging, it's really just a coin flip. For all of my opinions and all of my theories and all of these justifications, at the end of the day, it is a coin flip. Nobody knows where the market is going to go. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the last 5 years of doing this, next month is my 5th year anniversary. And I've been doing it now for, I guess, over 4 years for a living. If there's one thing I learned, it's that you don't know. And the irony is, if I could go back to 2019, I probably would have toned down a lot of my bearishness. Not because I think what I did was wrong, but because I was overconfident. It just so happened that it worked out and made me look like a hero. But the reality is I was overconfident that that was going to go back down. I told somebody this yesterday. I did a phone call with somebody, and I told them, I saw this descending triangle. To me, that's what that was. This was a retest of that triangle, and I was just dead sure that thing was going down to 4K or 4,200, had the hiccups, right back down to this level. But the reality is I could have easily been wrong. This could have easily went back up. These patterns are just not that reliable. And that's why when you're trading, it's all about risk reward. It's all about when you're right, you make a bunch of money. When you're wrong, you lose a little bit of money. Had I been wrong, I probably would have lost a bunch of money because I was so confident that I was right. Even if it had started going against me, I probably would have just sat there short. And when I say short, I don't mean literally taking like a leverage short. I mean not buying my Bitcoin back, going, I think it's going lower. It's going to 4K. And that thing might have went to $100,000 and I would have been sitting there the whole time saying, I think it's going to 4K. I think it's going to 4K. Because I was overconfident in that pattern. And it started to go against me. If you really think about it, it came up here, came down, that was looking good, ranged, and started to move back up. And I remember through here being very, very nervous, thinking, oh shit, maybe this ain't going back down. And I remember being salty a little bit, not publicly, but privately with my wife saying, why didn't I just buy my Bitcoin back at these levels, which was the roughly 61.8 of this move up, right? That was the plan. Originally, my plan was to buy everything back at 7,200 that I had sold back through here. And I didn't do it. And then I was like, oh man, I've screwed up, but I still wasn't buying it back. I basically just resigned myself to, it's either going to go down to 4K or I'm just not going to buy the Bitcoin back. And even when it fell to 4K because of COVID, I never bought all of my Bitcoin back, which ended up being a multi-million-dollar mistake, right? You got to be really careful about the chart patterns and all the other stuff and saying, well, this is what it's supposed to do. It's going to do it. No, it's not. You don't know. It's a 50-50 chance, right? It might do what you think it's supposed to do. It might do what the chart says it's supposed to do, and it might not. All this stuff that I've laid out over the last half an hour, it's all sound logic. Nobody's going to be able to come and question the logic behind it. Nobody's going to come and be able to say, you're an idiot, that doesn't make any sense. But anybody can come say, I think you're wrong, and maybe I am. So the reason I'm saying that is I don't want anybody to go out there and make big financial decisions going, well, James has laid out all this logic. It's got to go down. No, it doesn't. It could go to $100,000 tomorrow. It could also go to zero tomorrow. I don't have a crystal ball. Technically, this is still in an up channel, right? It's ugly, but technically, that is still trending up on that bigger time frame, right? Monthly chart is even easier to see. Still trending up. It has not turned the corner yet on a monthly time frame. Unfortunately, by the time it does turn the corner monthly, it's usually too late to do anything about it. But there you go. There's your channel. Okay? So I'm not telling anybody to go out there and sell your Bitcoin. I'm not telling you to go out and buy Bitcoin. I'm simply saying be aware of the possibilities. The possibility is very real that Bitcoin will be under $10,000 within the next 12 months. And if stocks get nasty, the possibility is very real it will be under $5,000. If you want to buy at those levels, if it gets there, totally your call. For those of you that are stacking Satoshis right now, you're also the people I'm talking to, right? Because there are people who trade and work very hard to accumulate Bitcoin instead of dollars or fiat. And if Bitcoin completely collapses, you're doing all of that for nothing. And if you're in the U.S., you get the double whack of you're making money that you're going to be taxed on, and then Bitcoin falls, especially if it falls in a different tax year, you may find yourself in a world of hurt. And I'm speaking from experience on that one. When 2017 happened and then 2018 happened, there were different tax years. So I had a huge return for 1 year, And then the next year, of course, you know, I didn't get to go back and say, well, I lost all that money I made last year. Nope, still owed taxes on it. So just something to keep in mind. All that being said, for the, I don't know, 1500th time over the last 5 years, I will say, I'm some guy. I'm sitting in a spare bedroom. I do not have a Series 7 license. I am not a stockbroker. I do not give out advice for a living. So, you know, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. Go out there and do your own due diligence, and obviously seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor for making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, precious metals, forex, or any other tradable asset. That's my market update for today. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you think I'm wrong and you have a thesis, a chart, or whatever that you think demonstrates I'm wrong, please, by all means, feel free to leave a comment and leave it down there. Just be respectful. I'll be respectful of your ideas. You be respectful of mine, and we can all do better together. All right. This is James with Crypto Common Sense, reminding you to please trade safe. I'll talk to you in the next video.